Have you ever wondered what would happen if there were actually life on Mars? Most people imagine it would be a perfect and exciting adventure. But the reality is much darker than what sci-fi movies tell you, and far different than you think. In this video, we will witness the 20-year transformation of the Red Planet step by step. First, we'll travel to year 1 to see who the engineers and first settlers were and how they settled in. Then, in year 5, we'll take a look at the famous $1 million Mars tomato and the first chicken egg on the planet. And finally, in year 15, you'll discover everything up to the ultra-luxury glass villas built with Rolls-Royce aesthetics by the billionaire class. But the real story begins in year 20. A new generation of humans born on the Red Planet who have never known Earth cut the supply lines and air systems to declare a war of independence. So at the end of this chaos, who will lay claim to the Red Planet? And most importantly, would you be brave enough to leave everything behind and grab a seat on that rocket? Now we go back to the very beginning, to day 1, when that first dusty boot hit the ground and changed human history forever. Because those who went there weren't chasing luxury. They were space engineers and laborers, there for high wages and a future ticket to life, working in harsh conditions with absolutely zero margin for error. The first years of settlement weren't just difficult, they were a true battle for survival. Imagine drinking recycled urine to quench your thirst, forgetting the taste of real food, and subsisting solely on vitamin supplements and compressed nutrient tablets. And then there's the absolute isolation. A void where saying a simple, "I love you" to your family takes half an hour due to transmission delays. For you, Earth no longer exists. There is no turning back. You have a single mission: to lay the first foundations of civilization on Mars. By the time we reached year 5, that famous $1 million tomato had finally turned red. But the real miracle was the first egg laid by confused chickens trying to fly in low gravity. Everything people on Earth threw into the trash without thinking had become a holy treasure here. But the first settlers were slowly burning out. Bringing anything from Earth was incredibly difficult, so the smallest tool or even a piece of scrap became black market currency among the working class. So what do you think an old magazine was worth in this scarcity? $1,000? $5,000? Or $150,000? No, you guessed wrong. The price on Mars was exactly 5 bottles of real Earth water. Not the recycled urine kind. That is how valuable it was. Human nature continues to surprise us even in the harshest conditions. Any item that reminded them of Earth was so precious that engineers would trade critically important equipment just to hold on to a memory. Truly, those first years of life were brutal. By year 10, Mars was no longer just a construction site. It was a home birthing its own culture. People had adapted, and the first Martian habits began to take root. Imagine the chaotic attempts at playing American football in low gravity, passes flying out of the stadium and players jumping meters into the air. Even the language had changed. The short, clipped sentences originally used to save oxygen evolved into a distinct Mars accent. Unnecessary words were dropped, creating a fast and efficient dialect. Even directions were different. North and south no longer mattered. There was only Earthward, meaning where you faced your home, and Jupiterward, the vast darkness at your back. For the children born here, the sky had never been blue. To them, Earth looked like a distant hell with gravity heavy enough to crush their weak bones. Just as life began to settle and the planet became safe, the true owners, the super rich, began to arrive. Inside their glass villas, protected by massive magnetic shields and designed with Rolls-Royce aesthetics, they sipped champagne and posted photos on social media captioned, "Saving the Future." Meanwhile, right outside the glass, the workers who had spent 15 years building those facilities in blinding dust storms stood watching in silence. By year 20, things on Earth had already gone off the rails. Economic stagnation and political chaos were gnawing at the planet. At this very point, Earth's governments and corporations set their sights on Mars' perfectly functioning, independent system. Their goal wasn't salvation, but collection. They wanted to reclaim their trillion-dollar investments and turn the planet into a fully corporatized colony. When the wealthy elite decided to transform the free people forged in Mars' harsh conditions into a new slave class to turn Earth's failing gears, that is exactly when the ropes snapped. This wasn't chaos, it was a planned operation. The first children born on Mars were now 20 years old. They were the true natives. The Martians, who built the planet and knew the system by heart, cut off the resource flow to Earth in a single move. But the real blow came from within. The main oxygen valves that kept life going were now in the hands of the workers and the Martians. The rich and the investors had no idea how to defend themselves on this new planet where they didn't know the rules. They had no choice but to slowly bow to the demands of the Martian people. Although they tried to fight, they couldn't even form an alliance among themselves. So they quickly returned to where they belonged, back to Earth, to race for power once again. The Martians won this first round and declared their independence. However, this victory was just a temporary success, because the former owners are now waiting in silent anger. Earth will never give up. Very soon they will show up at the door again, with healed wounds, massive fleets, new armies, and much greater fury. So when that day comes, which side would you choose to fight on? I'm waiting for your answers in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe before the red planet says its last word, because you will definitely want to hear it.